Hey guys, it's Maymay. So recently I posted a video showing you how I do a project from idea to finished project. I'll link that video for you guys if you haven't seen it. But I got a question in that video that said, how do you do mini albums? Do you start from photos or do you build the album and then put the photos in? Typically, I build an album and then put photos in. But I've had these photos that are my granddaughters from the fall, and I've been wanting to make an album just for these. It's not very many photos. It's very few. You can see, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 photos. And I thought this would be a good way to show you how to take pictures you have and create an album. Now, I'm going to be using a product I rarely use, and this is the Graphic 45's medium weight chipboard. I'll link all the products in the description for you guys. But my inspiration for this one is a children's book. So you know how sometimes you find those children's books that are made of chipboard and they are not really bound, they are bound together, but they're just chipboard books. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So the first thing I need to decide, since I'm working from photos to the book, is I need to kind of look at my pictures and see what I've got. So I've got landscape. By the way, don't be distracted by the beauty, right? These girls, oh my goodness. So I've got landscape. I also have some portrait. And what that means is the orientation of the photo. So here's landscape. So I have one portrait photo, but actually now that I look at it, it's not portrait. She's laying down, so it's landscape. So all my pictures are landscape. That's good. That means I only need to make sure that my photos can fit, you know, in this direction or on an angle or something like that. So I just need to size my book based on that. So these are 4x6 photos. I don't think I want to cut these down. I think I'm just going to decorate around them and not cut them down. So I'm going to work with 4x6. That means I'm going to want my album to be at least 7 inches wide. So I have ½ an inch on either side for the page. And how tall do I want it? What if we did 7x7? So I'm going to go ahead and start with cutting down a piece of chipboard 7x7. Now here's what I'm going to tell you. It might seem a little wasteful at first because I may find this is too big. So I'm a person that saves all my scraps. So having these pieces that are cut away from a 12x12 doesn't hurt my feelings. I'll use those somewhere. So let's see if this is what we want. So before we go to cutting all the chipboard, let's see. So we've got this photo. See, I think this is a perfect size because then I can decorate down here or I can use paper and show things off or stickers or whatever. I think that's really good. So now let's talk about page layout and how many pages I'm going to need. I'm not going to put a photo on the cover. I'm going to decorate the cover more to just be Addie and Emmy Fall 2020, something like that. So I'm going to, in my mind, open this up. Okay, so this is now the inside of my cover. So I'm going to have a photo on the inside and a photo on this page. So that means I need another page here. So I'm going to flip this over. And then on the back of that page, which will be my second one, I can put another photo. So that's 2 pages. All right. And then I've got 2.5, 3. So 3 pages. And then I've got 3.5, 4 pages. But then I'm going to want a back cover. So I need 5 pieces of chipboard. Let me cut that and show you that so that all that process makes more sense. One thing to think about too is with my 12x12 chipboard, because I decided to go 7x7 on my book, I'm not going to be able to get but 1 piece per 12x12. Again, for me, that is not an issue. I use chipboard all the time for lots of different projects. So this can become a mini album all by itself, this 1 piece here. So I'm not worried about the waste. But if you're concerned about that, keep that in mind because based on this, I'm going to need 5 pieces of 12x12 to make this happen. And I'll be honest with you, typically when I'm making an album, the chipboard is the thing for me. I pay attention to that because we have one chipboard that we carry that is sold in 6x6 squares. And I love to turn a 6x6 album turn out a 6x6 mini album like that because there's no cutting of that cardstock. That is so nice. However, I'm not opposed to this kind of album, but I do sometimes go, I don't really want to waste my chipboard. Because think about this, even if you were using your 12x12 cardstock, you could get 4 6x6 pages out of 1 piece. So think about that. You may not want to do something such an odd size because you don't want to have so many offshoots. But again, they get used around here. All right, so this should be 5 pages. So let's see if it worked. So I've got this page that is my cover. And then in here will be photo, photo. I just wondered what I did while ago to make sense. Okay, so then I flip the page, and then it will be photo, photo, flip the page, photo, photo, flip the page. Oop, I picked up 2 pages, flip the page. I'll have photo, and so that leaves us with a final page, right? So I can do anything here. I can leave it for journaling. What I think would be cute is to put a page in here, and the next time I'm with the girls, just kind of have them like write their name at whatever ability they can at this point. You know, Addie probably, from what I have seen, can do like an A and maybe a D, but Emmy would just scribble. But wouldn't that be cute to have a place for them to put their name? I think that'd be cute. So that's the pages we need. All right, when you're making your album at home, you won't have to do as much work with your pictures as you won't have to do this, but I'm wanting to show you how I plan to lay it out. So that's why we're touching my photos so much. All right, so let me get these guys laid out like they go, and then we're going to talk about binding this chipboard album. Also, remember, I'm making a chipboard album, so that's why I'm using all these chipboard pages. If you didn't want it to be chipboard, you could just do a chipboard cover and base, and then use just cardstock in the middle. But I'm wanting to mimic that little golden book, so that's why I'm doing that. Another thing I want to do is I want to round 2 corners. You know how little golden books and little kids books sometimes have these rounded edges? I want to do that. I want that to feel like a book. So this is where, you know, it would open and the spine would be here. So before I put it together, I want to establish where the spine is. So I'm going to run through and punch this side. I also want to talk to you about this. So I'm building this for these photos, but just like I had to use full sheets of 12 by 12 to make these pages, when I go to cover these pages, this is going to be an album that takes some paper, you know, because I'm using 7 by 7. So just remember that. This is not a paper saver album. I have made them that are paper savers, but this is not one. All right, we're ready to start binding. So I've got my pages cut, and because of the way I'm building this album, where the way I'm going to be binding it kind of like a little book, I think I want to go ahead and cover my pages because I don't want to have a gap between my binding strip and my cover. So you have to, when you're creating this, you have to think, okay, so here's my pages. How do I want to lay them out? And because I happen to know how my binding's going to go, which you'll see as we get going, I think it's best to cover now. And these pictures are fall pictures, right? So then what I did was I took my pictures and I went, now what am I going to want to do with these? And I think this paper kit, this is why I tell y'all, don't think you only need to buy these in autumn or in fall or winter or whatever they call them. I really wish they didn't call them by the season. They just call them dots and stripes. But these kinds of papers are perfect for when you have projects like this to do. And this one, like I said, these pictures were taken in the fall, but I haven't had time to do them. So now I've got the paper. So I'm going to open this up and get started. So we have front and back of 5 pieces to cover. All right. There's 2 things I like to do at this point. I like to decide what my favorite piece of cardstock is and what my least favorite piece of cardstock is, because I put my favorite piece here and my least favorite piece here. So what I'm going to do is look through here and find, this is my least favorite color, but I do think this color is going to work well in the album, but I'm going to put that one aside for a second. I love orange. If you don't know this about me, orange is like my 4th favorite color. Behind black, red, and white. So I love orange. Love the red. I don't think the red's going to work in this album, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. The green is going to work just fine, and I think this blue might actually work. Let me show you. If you're not sure, just test it, but look how pretty this is on there, like that blue, and then adding some pumpkins, because, you know, teal is kind of in for fall. I think it'll work fine. All right, so I think what I'm going to do for the cover is orange, because I want to be reminded that this is a fall album, and I think for the back is going to be yellow, because it's my least favorite. Then these colors will all get used throughout. Oh, I forgot about the brown, because I can use that too. The brown might be a pretty cover. Nope, we're going to go with orange. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through this paper pack, and I'm going to cut for myself 10 pieces that are 6 3/4 by 6 3/4, because remember, our pages are 7 by 7. So 10 pieces. I'll start with these 2 so I know I have my cover and my back established. So 6 3/4 by 6 3/4. And remember, this one's going to be a scrap builder project, not a scrap user, because you're only going to be able to get 1 sheet from each of this, from each 12 by 12 for your book. I'm okay with that because I like scraps, but if you're not, you might want to adjust the size of your building. All right, I'm going to get my pages. So this paper pack worked perfect for me because I actually had to cut each page down to get what I needed. And it also works perfect for me. If you know anything about me, I am really bad at getting my orientation right on pages when I'm making them. So all I have to do on this one is make sure I'm using the right side. And here's what I mean by that. On this particular page, I've got a tone-on-tone dot, but on the back side, it offers a white-on color dot. I want the tone-on-tone. I like the muted. So here's why this is important to me. If you were to mount, I don't need both of those. Let me just get one. If you were to mount this onto your chipboard right now, do you see how the corners look? We don't want that. We want that rounded. So what I have to make sure is that I'm holding my pages all in the right, on the right side. So I want to make sure that my white dot is on the bottom and my tone-on-tone is on the top, and they are. And then I want to use the same corner punch that I used on my cover pieces, and I want to punch the same corners. All right, so now let me show you the difference. Now when I bring that piece over, this piece will nestle inside, and it looks as though I made that on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like I meant for that to happen, and I did. So we need to do that to all the pieces. So there's my first little stack. Let's grab another stack. And I just want to look through and make sure I'm putting the white dot on the back, and we are. And then I'm going to go to this corner and do my 1/2 inch. And the other. Now, let me tell you something. If you're not good with your corner rounder, you might want to do these one at a time. When you're stacking them like this, inevitably, one of those pages is not going to be exactly the same, and you might get a little off, but I'm pretty decent at getting that done. But if you need to do it one at a time, I totally get it. Look, I almost didn't look, and that's what gets me in trouble. We're good. If you know me, if it's got a pattern on it, I'm going to do it backwards somewhere, and I'm sure that's no exception in this album. All right, so put my punch back away and then bring my pages over. Now to get me started, I'm going to go ahead and glue down my front and my back so I know I have those where I want them. So I'm just, at this point, I'm going to use just my wet glue. Now I am going to be mixing this up. I'm going to be using some sticky tape as well throughout this project. And I'll show you where and I'll tell you why. You guys ask me that question all the time. Why would you do one over the other? This is a good project for me to show you that. So let me get this one glued down. All right. Basically, I'm going to be using, I got to get this one piece out from behind. I'm going to be using my sticky tape for binding. I think it works really well in a binding situation and it adds so much stability. So that's where you'll see me doing that. But for here, that will be my cover. So I'll put that over there. And now I want to make sure I'm doing the back of this one in that paper I chose, which is the yellow. So I'll glue this one down to the back. The rest, I don't really care how they land, except I don't want the same colors touching each other. So that won't be quite as hard. I just want to make sure these land where they're supposed to go. All right, so I'll lay this one here, and since it's the back, we'll build on there. Let's add green. I think that'll be pretty here. So I'm going to run through and glue these down. So it's time for me to start thinking about my binding. I've already been thinking about it. I want to do it kind of like the little golden books. You know how they did just kind of, they had that little gold strip right here? I think I am actually going to use gold right there. But on the inside, because I'm thinking I'm going to use a gold glitter paper. Let me show you. So I'm considering, because I think this color is so pretty, I'm considering using this for my binding, and it'll give that feel of the little golden book. Plus, I like how sturdy this will be. So it's not really going to be the binding. It's going to be the cover that hides the working. For here, I want to find a paper that's going to be fall and coordinate, and I'm going to create binding strips for each page. So let me do that. Okay, along the same vein of showing you my process, I want to show you this. So I know how I want to put the pages together, but I want to make sure of the size I need. So my photo, I don't want it to be any closer to the edge than that. Now remember, I said I didn't want to cut these down, but if I have to cut them a little bit, it's not a big deal. But here's what I've done. I cut myself a strip that, first off, I found this paper. Okay, this is in my stash. This is from an old Cartabella pack, but I think this is going to match every single page and the pictures, and I'm also going to use some Maymay in this album, so it'll all work together. But I just wanted to make sure that if I use this binding strip, it is going to be enough between the pages to give me what I'm looking for, and it is. So I still have room for my photo, and if I have to trim them a tiny bit, it won't be much. So I'm going to put my photo back aside, and so what I cut for myself was 4 pieces of binding strip, And when I say that, somebody asked me, because I just call them binding strips, if that's a certain thing. It's not. It's just cardstock. So I cut myself 4 pieces that are 7 inches long. And now we need to score those. So I got out my baby scoreboard, because sometimes I do. When I'm doing something small, it just works. And now my bone folder. So each of these is 1 1/4 wide. So that means I need to score them at 5/8 to score the middle. So I'm just going to score those right down the middle. Now, I don't love doing 8s, but this one just works out that way. So I'm going to score these really quick, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to put them in the book. Let me say while I'm at this point, even though I am building this album as we go, and I don't know these measurements as we get there, we will have a blog post with full measurements. If you just want to recreate the album and not worry about the process itself, you can just go to the blog post and get all the measures. And we link those in the descriptions of videos. All right, so that is that. Now, let's put this little guy away. Okay, so let's talk about how I'm going to do my adhesive for my binding strips. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these in half and crease them, okay? So I want to make sure I get that part done ahead of time, because once I apply my adhesive, that's much harder to do. You can fold these in both directions, but I don't think you need to, because we just want our book to go this way, so it's fine. All right, so I want the floral side to be what shows in my book, so on the back side, I'm going to add my adhesive. And here's how I like to do it. I kind of use my hand as my tape dispenser. Just put my tape in my hand like that. And I notice how I have that sharp edge. Use something with a sharp edge so you can get that every time. And here's what I do. I line it up to the very edge, okay? And I need the sticky tape to stick right to the very edge of this strip. Why? I want to make sure that every part of this piece of cardstock has adhesive on it. And this is why I choose to use a tape here versus a wet glue, because no matter how hard I try, unless I want to get my hands really, really messy and cover this thing in glue, and if I cover this paper in glue, it's just going to warp. I just do this so I get my tape exactly where I want it. Now let me show you something else. Here's something cool. If you have a thinner piece of tape, like if you have both sizes in your collection, I do, but I'm not going to do it that way today. I want to show you something else. I would put another thin piece here, not covering my score line, but right inside of it. But since I don't, let me show you what I am going to do. I'm going to take this piece here, and I'm going to lay it to the very edge and on this side of the score line. And notice I have not peeled off the backer on the one underneath. Also, don't cover your score line. That score line needs to be bent, so we want to leave it open. So I'm going to put this piece down, and notice how they overlap. I'll show you how that's not going to be a problem in a few minutes. I'll tell you now. Because this is release tape, this is the tape that is made to not stick to this tape, it won't stick when you overlap it. So when we go to apply this in the book, you'll see that it won't be a problem. And this way, you'll have full coverage. Now, some of you might have a piece, you might get lucky and it be exactly the same size. This one just didn't happen to be. All right, so there's one. Let me do the others. Okay, now for putting the pages together, it's super easy. You're going to take your book and open it up. I do not want them butted together. Why is that? Because I want the score line to have some room. We're going to hide all of that at the end, but I don't want them butted straight up together. So that's why you see a little gap. So now I'm going to peel my adhesive back, and I'll show you what happens here. I revealed the top one, and now I can come underneath this guy and lift it up. And look, it does not stick to where they overlap, so it works perfectly. And then all I do is just take my tool here and kind of lay that down. It'll lay down more when we put it into the book. So let's just stick one down to start with. You'll also find that's a little easier too. All right, so I'm going to fold this guy in half, and remember, I want my score line to be free to move. So I'm going to kind of hang it over the edge just slightly. I mean slightly, like you probably won't even notice that it is. And then I'm just going to put this guy down into place. And it runs from end to end. And this is where you can get a little messed up. If you're not careful with these guys and get them laid in there really straight, you might get a crooked book. So really take your time on this part. All right, so there's that one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel this one off. Obviously, you start with the one on top. And then I just grab the one underneath. Isn't it funny how we discover these kinds of things work? I was doing this, and I like overlapped some adhesive on accident and went, oh, it works anyway. So that's how I do this. So I make sure I have my whole piece covered. All right, now I think what I'll do, do I want to lay this down? Possibly, I don't know. Let me see the best way to do this. I'm going to lift this up a little bit. Just bring it, I'm paying attention to the bottom first. Then I'll look at the top. Let's do it the other way. Let's lay this down. Let's just lay it into place. Oh, much easier. I know that might not have seemed like it was, but it was much easier. All right, so now, very important, burnish this tape. Take something and rub it down. That almost activates it, you know? So rub it down. Now see why I would want to use sticky here versus wet? This adhesive is running all the way to the edge, and I know my book is surely strong. All right, I'm going to add all my pages the same way, so let's do another one. So I'll peel off one side. Oops, can't. One thing you can't do is you can't start your removal from the lifted side because nothing's sticking down. You have to start where it's sticking to the piece. So there's that. Let's do this one. Stick that down. And then I can place this strip. All right, I got that one down. Now I can peel this away. So I know you're curious to know if I was able to keep my plan. Cover is orange. Here's the inside. Look at this little book. It's so cute, and I love using the chipboard pages. It's funny. I'm going to burnish this while we talk because I didn't burnish it a while ago. It's funny because over Christmas, I was in my guest room with my granddaughter, Addie, and she had little books in there, and one of them is put together like this, and I thought, why do we not do more books like that? Why do we think we have to have this super fancy binding to make this happen? Because that's how they put their books together. I know you've seen these little chipboard books for grandkids. All right, let's do this piece, and it's going to be super easy. So let's tell you how I decided about the size of this piece, all right? This piece is not holding my book together. I could stop here, decorate, and my book is put together, but I want to hide this raw edge, okay? So this piece just needs to look good. Now, on the inside of my binding strips, when I do something like this, I like to have 1/2 inch for adhesive. Some people do 1/4 inch, and some people do 3/8 inch on the piece that's on the page. 3/8, I don't like to work in 8, so I try not to do that to you guys. And 1/4 inch is too small to hold this book together long term. So I just go 1/2 inch, okay? So that's why my strip in here is 1 inch and folded in half. But on the front of the book, I can play a little bit. So I measured the thickness of my book, and it's 1/2 inch, just slightly under 1/2 inch. So I know I need 1/2 inch to cover this. So that means I can add whatever width I want here. So I think an inch will look good. Let me show you. 1/2 inch would look like that. It would be really thin, and I don't think that's enough. An inch looks like this, and I think it looks kind of rich to have 1 inch of that gold on the front, and it also gives me a nice square place to work. So what I did was I gave myself 1 inch to cover the front, 1/2 inch for the middle, and 1 inch to cover the back. So we need to make those score marks. So this piece turned out being 2.5 inches wide. Now let's score. I'm going to turn it over to score. So that means I need to score it at 1 inch and at 1.5 inches. And that will give me my spine and also my attaching pieces. Okay, so that's what I did there. Let's go ahead and fold it so you can see it. So I'm going to fold it here. I like using glitter paper here because I think it's going to add to the stability, because that little middle section is not going to get glued into place. We're only going to glue these outside sections. So this middle section is not getting glued down, but I want to kind of give it a little bit of a curl. The reason for that is it's going to kind of fold in kind of a bendy kind of way. So I'm just taking my ruler and just kind of rubbing through that middle as if I were curling it like a ribbon, just to sort of break it up, just to kind of loosen it. I'm not really curling it. I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of work. I don't know how it's going to end up, but I want to kind of give it a starting point. All right. You'll see that in a second when we get going. All right, let's add our sticky tape to this one just like we did before. Now this looks like I'm going to get plenty of tape with just 2 strips laid side by side. So that's what I'm going to stop with. I'm not going to worry about going right to the score line there. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, just 2 strips laid side by side. So if you have 1 inch wide or a 3/4 inch wide tape, you'll be in good shape. All right, now let's put this guy on. Again, this one's just for looks. It's not really going to hold the book together. The book is fine like it is, but we just want to cover that kind of messy end on the book. So the only thing that gets stuck down here is from our first score line, which I'm gonna do it like this so I can see it. Our first score line to the edge gets stuck down. All right, so I'm just going to line up one side, make sure I've got that good, and then I want to burnish. And I know this looks simple now, but remember, we've got to decorate. There's a lot still coming. Then this piece is going to get glued to the back. And see how that's going to be kind of loose in the middle? That's what I'm looking for. I want that room for the book to open and close. So that's why I've done it that way. And over time, it's going to open and close even more. So I'm going to stick this down. I'm going to get that pretty close there. And again, it's not holding the book together. The book is fine. This is just for look. So I'm even going to rub this out. And if it rubs out my score line, it's really fine. Let's do that up here too. I'm going to rub right over that score line. And then we have this pretty little spine, and our book can open just like this. And look, you've seen books made like this. Do you see how it's got that gap? That's what we're looking for. We want it to have that gap so that the book can open and close without any resistance. But when it's closed, it looks clean and neat. And I know that may be a little different. I don't know. I've not really researched people making albums like this. I just went off that little book that Addie was looking at, and I'm like, they got this little piece here. They've done it with chipboard, and I just kind of mimicked it. So this is the book construction, and that's where this video is going to end. But let me tell you why. This is probably a quick video. I have no idea. I haven't edited it yet. But this has been a couple of days for me where I've been working on it over some couple of days and deciding what I'm going to do and that sort of thing. So I'm going to let the construction of the album end here. If you're not interested in seeing how I decorate it and how I add photos, you won't even have to come back. You can put this album together from right where we are. But if you want to see me add my cute little granddaughter photos and some decorations, come back for part 2, which I'll post on Tuesday. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I really am enjoying taking you guys along on my process because I think for those of you that it clicks, if my process clicks, it'll open up a whole new world for your crafting. And for those of you who just want to make this project using the measurements and not do the planning work, I have it all done for you in the blog post linked below. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. If you're making anything that I'm showing you how to do, please share it with us in one of two places, at our customer gallery at maymaymadeit.com or over on our Discord. You need to come join us over there. We're having a really good time. Everybody's chatting back and forth. It's a great way to get in touch with me really quick and easy. So it's just a lot of fun there. Also, on our customer gallery, if you need inspiration, there's over 2,000 posts to give you inspiration for projects and for using stamp sets that you might have purchased from us and things like that. Go check it out. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here today. And until next time, bye now.